On the second leg of the journey, the dwarves and Bilbo near the Lonely Mountain, where the dragon Smaug lies in sleep. Gandalf splits from the group, sensing the return of a long-forgotten enemy. And always on the tail of the dwarves, the elves Tauriel and Legolas.
Bear in mind, you guys, I haven't read the book, so I can't judge this as an adaptation. Though, I can safely assume they padded the hell out of it, considering there's 3 movies out of a 300-page book. The good. The highlight of Lord of the Rings has always been, for me, the action scenes, and the ones in this movie are really fun. Though it still stands at about 2.5 hours, this movie feels a little more streamlined than Unexpected Journey. The first Hobbit film was really slow and took a really long time to set up all its new characters, its new story, and a bunch of other subplots that it has to set up. For this movie, the characters have already been set up in the last movie, so it feels like more things are happening over the course of the entire movie, and it doesn't get very dull. And since the setup was taken care of in the last movie, this movie makes things happen a little more quickly, even if there are still a million subplots going on. The dragon Smaug, voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. Ever since I watched the trailer for this movie and heard that voice for the first time, I was hyped solely for the reason of seeing that dragon, and it did not disappoint. Even though he's not in the book, Legolas appears in this movie for the purposes of padding and fan service, and from the fan service angle, I'm not complaining. There's one particular fan service moment involving Legolas and a dwarf. Look out for it. I'm not a super fan of Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, but I will say this. I hold a high amount of respect for the filmmakers and actors who work on this film. They pour nothing but passionate dedication into their work when bringing Middle-earth to life. The world feels real, the characters are strong and believable, and when those elements come together, you can't help but get at least a little invested in this story that's going on. If I'm not mistaken, Peter Jackson has a cameo at the beginning of this movie, so watch out for the guy eating a carrot. The iffy. I watched Desolation of Smaug not only in the high-definition 3D that Peter Jackson's been doing with these movies, but also with D-Box motion seats. If you have a local theater that has these kinds of seats available, I highly recommend you check it out in this. This was my first time seeing a movie in D-Box motion seats, and being able to get a physical sensation of what was going on screen during the action scenes added a whole new level of awesome to them. But I will throw in a disclaimer. Tickets are $20 a piece, and that's just me. I don't know what your ticket prices are like, but just make sure you have the budget for this kind of thing before you go out and do it for sure. The dwarves' names are still pretty hard to remember just because there's so many of them. I've got Thorin, Doran, Balin, Fili, and Kili. That leaves me like 6 or 7 to go by the time There and Back Again comes out. The bad. This movie has a couple of love connections that don't feel strong enough with what we're given on screen, so I'm not entirely sure that they should be in there at all. I don't know, maybe it wasn't strong, maybe it's just because I've seen so many love triangles lately that I'm getting tired of them. A moment in this movie doesn't fit right with me because it doesn't logically click with something that happened earlier in the story. But that's a very fine detail. As much as I love the action in this movie, the circumstances in which the heroes survive are very unrealistic, even for a fantasy movie. And in comparison to Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies have been really unrealistic about it. The ending. It wasn't a bad ending, but my God. Go out and watch the movie and you will see exactly what I mean when I talk about that ending. The verdict? I had more fun watching this movie than I thought I would. The new elements and the familiar ones are both done with just as much gusto as they have always been done, and now I hate the fact that I have to wait a year for There and Back Again, but I guess that's a good sign. This is Detective Steve, and Middle-earth, after 5 movies, has me in a state of hype.